This is live from my office. I'm Steve Cochran, and I want to personally thank you because this is our 200th episode. Let me just go ahead and give you, the audience, the rarely used sitting ovation. I mean, without you, what's the point of doing this? I'm just talking to myself, and I do enough of that when the microphone's not on. So thank you. 200 episodes in. Ross Cochran, who produces this, has made sure that all 200 have been able to be published and be in a position where you could listen to them at your leisure. That's the great benefit of podcasts. You listen when you want to. And thank you, Ross, as well. And thank you to David Hochberg, our title sponsor since day one at Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. He just wants to save you money, but you got to take that first step. So on this 200th episode, I thought I'd bring in a friend. And he's a friend which many of you should know. It's the great stand-up comedian, Jake Johannsen. If you live in the Chicago area, he's going to be back at Zany's in Chicago at the end of March and the first day or two of April. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about his 40-plus appearances on Late Night with David Letterman. And we'll talk to Jake in great detail about important and semi-important things. But before we get to that, how about a clip? Jake has done not just Letterman, but he's done all of Late Night. Conan, Bill Maher, and various iterations. Even Craig Kilborn back in the day when he was doing the Late Show on CBS. And obviously the great Johnny Carson. So this is a little bit of a kind of around the horn, if you will, with the great Jake Johannsen. And then we'll get on with our 200th episode of Live from My Office.
Our next guest, ladies and gentlemen, is one of our favorite comedians.
Please welcome a very funny guy. Very funny guy.
One of our favorites.
A very entertaining man who tours the country bringing merriment and laughter to the masses.
He's going to be appearing at the Punchline in San Francisco.
That's a fine booking. You can also catch him on ABC's It's Like You Know.
Ladies and gentlemen, the bright, the witty, the likable Jake Johannsen.
Jake Johannsen.
Jake Johannsen.
Jake Johannsen.
Jake Johannsen.
Jake!
So I don't know. I'm going to vote. You got to vote. Even though a lot of times I don't feel like my booth is hooked up to anything. Do you get that sensation? I'm in there voting my ass off, and I got nothing. It's like I got the Fisher-Price voting booth. I'm elected the president. I'll be out in a minute. That's what I like about the cat. She has her own agenda. Even when I'm talking to her, I know she's working on it. I'll be telling her, don't scratch the couch. I know she's thinking, where are your black pants? As opposed to a dog. You leave the dog all day. By the time you get home, they're in a blind panic of, thank God you're back. I thought you were dead. I don't know how anything works. Because I have friends in New York City that they found a parrot on their fire escape, and so they took it home and kept it, because in New York City, if you find something that no one is holding on to, it belongs to you. And so actually, if they're just holding loosely onto it, that's like a gray area. So they take it home. They take the bird home, and it turns out it talks already. And it says, "Hello, I love you. Want a beer?" And get in there, get in there, get in there. I have my own problems. I just got a $1,000 electric bill. That's high, right? I push all the buttons, and finally you get on with a human being, and she says, "Yeah, hi, this is Miss Kavanaugh. May I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I have a $1,000 bill, and there must be a mistake, I'm just one guy. It's 1,000. And she says, "Well, how many refrigerators do you have?" Like that could possibly be the answer, So I said, 100. have 100 refrigerators, and they're all open. That's how I cool my house. I have 100 open refrigerators, and then if it gets too cold, I start turning on blow dryers.
And I'm telling you, voting and cats and dogs and customer service, we're just scratching the surface. And we'll talk more with Jake in just a second. Subscribe, rate, and review to Live from My Office wherever you listen. And remember, when you subscribe for somebody else, you're making the world a better place, because they'll get every episode and never miss one, just like you're smart enough to do. And thank you for that. Episode 200 continues with Jake Johannsen joining me next on Live from My Office. If you're purchasing a new home, refinancing your existing home, securing a VA loan or reverse mortgage, well, do what I've done in the past, what my family's done, my friends, and my listeners. We all call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Tom and Sonia, 2 kids, constantly struggling to pay their 6% mortgage and the minimum payments on their 17 credit cards, with balances totaling $100,000. Sounds like an impossible thing, but they needed help, and they called Team Hochberg for a free consultation. Team Hochberg's loan officer, Sarah Ruffer, helped Tom and Sonia secure an FHA loan, pay off their 17 credit cards, and reduce their monthly payments over $2,800. How about that? Before calling, Tom and Sonia were drowning in debt and opening credit cards to pay the old cards off. And after calling Team Hochberg, Tom and Sonia eliminated their credit card debt and saved over $34,000 a year. Team Hochberg has helped me, my family, my listeners. They can help you. And Tom and Sonia certainly would tell you the same. Get your debt paid off with an FHA loan if that's what applies to you. If you don't know what applies to you, they'll help you figure it out. 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. And tune into Home Sweet Home Chicago, hosted by David Hochberg, Saturdays after House Smarts at 10 on WGN. Homeside Financial is an equal housing lender, NMLS number 1124061.
Oh God, this meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, we're actually recording this because I thought I'd just call to say hi, but who knows? We may say something entertaining, and why would you want to lose that? I think there's not enough content on the internet now, and I think it needs to be deepened in really important ways. By the way, the voice you hear is the great Jake Johannsen. More on Jake in a moment. But I've thought for a long time, what does the internet need? They need a POV of a 60-year-old guy and what he does all day. Now, granted, 60% of that's going to be from a reclining chair, but the other 40%, it's a world of possibilities.
Well, if you're prone to motion sickness, there's going to be trouble, because a lot of the time I spend a lot of my day shaking my head from side to side.
Right.
Kind of in disbelief. Sometimes I'm just staring up at the sky.
Yeah, I talked about that. Remember, we were talking before we started here. We did a show at Zany's in Rosemont, a club you're familiar with because Chicago loves you, and you're coming back in April. And Rosemont you'll be at Rosemont, also downtown. But I mentioned last night, and people seem to agree. I don't know about you. When I was a kid, I always wondered why old guys were so cranky, and it turns out it's because they were right.
Because they were right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, think about it now. Whenever you get cranky now, it's because you're right about something. They were right then. I just didn't know. I'm right now. You're right when you get cranky. We have enough life knowledge that you can look at something and go, well, that's bullshit, and that's got to stop.
It's the Cassandra thing.
The Cassandra thing?
Yeah, the curse of Cassandra, that you can foretell the future, but no one believes you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, this goes along with a theory that I have about immortality. Immortality sounds great when you're in your 20s and 30s, but I think listener, viewer, however people are processing this right now, once you get in your 50s and 60s, immortality is not as attractive, because you kind of go through every day like, well, I see where this is going, and I don't know how much of it I can take.
Well, I had a grandma that lived to be 101, and she was a great lady, and she always was optimistic and looked forward. But at one point, I asked her, I said, well, what she was coming up on her 100th birthday, and I said, well, what are you thinking? What do you like? And she said, it's hard because all the people that know my life are gone.
Yeah.
So what's the number? You don't get to choose, obviously, or you shouldn't choose, maybe. But what's the number where you go, well, that's the number I'd like to get out at?
Well, first of all, I'd like to respond with the elderly relative in my extended family. But my wife's grandmother is 103.
Wow.
And he only moved into the care facility a year and a half ago. And I have to say, she's 103, and and she wakes up almost every day thinking, fuck, I'm still here.
Well, it's got to be. If you get, say, north of 90, every morning you wake up, it's got to be a surprise, right?
Yeah, well, a surprise. And then I think that your life just keeps, as you get older, you've got less, like physically, I can still do a lot of the things that I could do. I just can't. The frequency and the intensity is decreasing.
Yeah.
And then at some point, there's things that you can't do anymore. Like I'm not going to ride my bike from LA to San Francisco, maybe this year, but not 15 years from now. And, then you're not flying cross country anymore. And then, so anyway, I think back to your question, I think the over under is 84 years old. And that may be going up because people are generally getting healthier and living longer. Their healthy life is getting longer. But I think when Paul Newman died at 84, I was like, well, look, that guy has his own brand of healthy salad dressing. And he's a wealthy movie star, and he's taking care of himself. And so he's got whatever he wants to facilitate a longer life. And he cashed in at 84.
84 could be the number. We'll call it the Paul Newman number.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, I feel like that's the over-under is at 84, and then your results may vary.
And check your local listings. Now, here's the thing that I've been thinking about lately, because I turned 60 last March, is we're in the fourth quarter. This is the fourth quarter, because 60 to 80, you still should be relatively healthy, where you can do a lot of things that you want. But at 80, shit starts falling off you. Or as a doctor put to my mother so gently, and parts wear out. So this fourth quarter, there's no guarantee of overtime. It's what you make of it, but the clock's ticking.
Yeah. Well, I used to think about it as the 520s. But before we move on, let me just say, whose doctor said that? Your mother's doctor?
One of my mother's doctors. Yes.
Yeah. She needs to fire that guy. If I'm paying you, or the insurance is paying you, and all you do is ask me how old I am and then go, what do you think? That's not, is there a copay, or do I just screw off right now? I'm not playing.
Why did I get out of the car?
I'm not playing that game with that guy.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, what was the question?
We were just talking about the fourth quarter. And,
so I think about it as the 520s. So the first 20, 0 to 20, you're not even present, really. I mean, you start to become aware of what's going on in that end of that first 20. And then the second 20, you're getting yourself ready. You're getting suited up and
oriented, figuring it out.
And you're just getting ready for the third 20, which is the power 20. From 40 to 60, that's the power 20. That's when you're getting shit done, that you're taking care of business, your dreams are coming true or not. And then the fourth 20 that you've just begun, that I'm in, the 60 to 80, that's the victory lap 20. So now we're collecting our awards. We're reaping the benefits of the power 20. We're still doing the things that we enjoy doing, and everything's okay. And then the fifth 20, that's the bonus 20. That's we're taking the victory lap now, because nobody knows if you get to take the bonus 20. But the bonus 20 is nobody gets to talk you out of anything.
Right.
You can do whatever you want. You want to smoke, you want to drink, you want to go visit.
Eat what you want, go where you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shoplift, whatever.
Yeah, when my dad rolled through 80 and he was still, I think he had quit smoking by then, but people are like, you need to lose weight. Hey, good luck. If you think you're going to convince somebody in their fifth 20 of doing something, you need to take a look at yourself.
I wouldn't want to be the guy at Nutrisystem or Weight Watchers or whatever they're calling it now, who's in charge of the 80 plus market.
Oh my! Well, there are people who are doing that. I don't know how they fooled these 80-somethings into thinking they need to lose weight. I mean, yes, of course, exercising is great, but the same thing is now they've got guys thinking we need a 6-pack abs. The world is kind of makes you think that you need things that you don't really need.
No. And by the way, with the abs thing, I'm actually going for just the plastic holder. Those are the abs I'm looking for.
What's the plastic?
The 6 rings.
The
You know what
rings?
I'm talking about? Yeah. The thing that you don't allow in California now that I think about it. The 6 rings. That's what I'm looking for. Though that's the kind of abs I'm building because they're more rippled, which sort of looks like me without a shirt now.
I'm looking for a sheet cake, just a kind of just one imposing slab of.
Sure, why not?
I feel like I'm doing okay. I'm giving up on the 6-pack abs.
Yeah. Now you have always been in shape for all these years that I've known you.
I'm fairly healthy.
Do you weigh about what you weighed when you were back in your 20s?
No, I was a very thin. I was a very thin young person. So I was probably in at 165, 170 for a long time of my 20s. And then I got up to 190 or so. And then in my life, I've been up to 206, but now I'm back down around the mid 180s. So I'm doing okay.
Are you shrinking into your new weight as you age?
Well, I actually think that when you head into that fifth 20, what you want to do is put on about 15 pounds, because just witnessing my wife's battle with cancer, just to throw that out there for the show.
And she's working hard and she's very brave.
You immediately lose weight because you can't eat either because of the medication you're on or because of the symptom, be it your illness. So when you're heading into that fifth 20, it's nice to do it with an extra 15 pounds. Insurance policy, it's like, hey, you don't have to put all that food in your backpack. You can just carry it around with you all the time.
Right. It's convenience is what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, healthy. When you're battling serious illness, you a lot of times you don't feel like eating. So if you've already done some pre-eating.
So you're talking about prepping for the bad news. Get that 15 on now. And that way, when they tell you the bad news, you go, I'm good. I don't need to eat. I'm good.
That's right, Steve. And this is a great lunchbox or a T-shirt. Be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Oh, very good. It's a lot better than that book title you came up with a few minutes ago. I can tell you that right now. Yeah.
Well, we're just there's nothing in a brainstorming session like this. There are no wrong answers.
That's true.
That comes later.
You throw everything up against the wall on the big dry erase board. I ran into somebody the other day who had said, when you talk to Jake, ask him this question. And I said, no. And they said, please. So I'm going to. They said, I saw he's done more Lettermans than anybody. And I don't think I've ever talked to you about this, but was it 45 Letterman shots that you did?
It's 46.
46. I actually sold you short. That is amazing. And in that 46 Letterman shots, how many long talks did you have with Dave?
Would you mean how many times did I get to go sit down on the couch, or how many times did I afterwards we sit down?
Well, he's legendary for not talking to guests and being sort of the social misfit and not interacting and some of those things that others may have done. 46, you're practically family. Did you ever live with Dave?
I didn't live with him. Well, obviously I'm not on that show that many times without him liking me. So I know he liked me, appreciated my comedy, and he must have also kind of liked me as a person. He would come over and ask me how I was doing, and I would answer brief. Our conversations were taking place during the commercial break, while there's also 3 other people that are coming up to talk to him about the next guest or some joke thing that's changed about the segment after that, or how they're doing on time. I'm catching him at a really busy time, which is during the show. And he was always given that. He was always very friendly. And especially once he had a kid, and then my daughter was born within a year of that. So we became parents at the same chronological time. He's a bit older than me, but our kids were about the same age. So once that happened, for that last, I guess it would have been 10 years of me going on the show, I'd bring a picture of my daughter and I'd show him my picture of my daughter and tell him what was going on. He'd ask about that or say she's cute. And then, he was busy doing other things. But as far as taking vacations together, we didn't do that. If this is how I would describe it, if we were at a restaurant and David Letterman was at another table, I would go over to say hello, but I would not be gone very long.
Yeah, no, it's a great way to describe it. That's really a great way to describe it. But this is the thing that amazes me from a stand-up standpoint about doing the show that many times. That's a lot of material, and in 6-minute clips. And at what point in that process do you go from the guy who gets the call, Dave would like to have you on the show, and they work with you and they tell you, we like this, we don't like this. At what point do they say, Jake, come on, we trust you, do your 6 minutes? Is it appearance 20? Is it appearance 15? Is it appearance 35? When does that happen?
Well, I'd say that happened pretty early on, like appearance. I would say that happened pretty early on. But I still, even to the end, I would get my set ready. I guess in the last 10 years or 15, they wanted to type transcript to show to legal before I got there. And so they would have that. Sometimes they would ask me to give them the bullet points of the topics before, but most of the time it was put together your set, fly in the day before the taping, go out to a comedy club. The segment producer who was in charge of my segment, who then I got to be friends with the guy who was Frank Gannon, who had that job for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And so he would come out, we'd have dinner. I'd go run the set once, usually, sometimes 2 different clubs. And he would, you know, it would be okay. I mean, I knew what you could say. I knew what you couldn't say. And I knew how to put together a 4 to 6 minute set or whatever it was at the time. And, you know, once or twice he would say, oh, maybe shift this to the other place or open with this instead of that. And that was solid, but he was good at that. And I trusted him on that. One time I had a set prepared, and it involved a joke about an airplane where the top came off the airplane.
I remember that from one of your specials. Yeah.
The top comes off the plane and they land the plane anyway. And I wasn't, you know, was just talking about how intense that would be. Well, on my flight, while I was flying to New York, a plane had crashed somewhere in the United States. And so, so they said, look, the taping's tomorrow, but we don't think you should do that because it's going to be too, not that your joke is in bad taste, but because there was just a plane crash that's on people's mind, it would be weird if you did that material this time. And so I had some other material that I hadn't really condensed or prepared for the appearance on the show, but I went out that night and I ran that set, and that's the one that I did on the show. And it was, it would have been, it was a good appearance, but it would have been better if I'd have had time to groove and kind of condense that material.
All right. So when you do those Lettermans, there's a school of thought that people say, well, you just burn that 6 minutes and now you can't use it on stage. I don't agree with that. Were you able to take that material and go do it again on stage? Point being, not everyone is watching Letterman that night.
That's true. But I would try. Well, for example, you'd go on the show, you'd do the 6 minutes, and he would say, hey, next week, Jake's in Sacramento or San Francisco. And maybe it's not a great idea to do that material that night where people are there because they saw you on Letterman do those jokes. But in general, yeah, I think you could still do it. I mean, you're always trying to come up with new material because whether people saw it on Letterman or not, after you come to the city, 2 years, 3 years from the last time you were there, people have seen, you got to have some new stuff.
Brian Regan, I don't know if you're pals with Brian, but Brian Regan did something when he came in on the radio, which kind of amazed me. He'd come in once a year or so. And when he would come in, he had this little spiral notebook, and he'd make a note of stuff we talked about or stuff that was from his act that maybe he worked in or stuff that he just thought was funny. Then he'd come in the next year and he'd prep from that notebook and the date like it was a comedy diary, so he wouldn't redo what he just did a year ago on the radio. My feeling was always, nobody's going to remember it. They love you. They'll listen to you. But I thought that was interesting. Is he nuts?
No. I don't think he's nuts. I think it's very tricky when you're doing that to keep track of if you're doing something at this radio station that's different than that radio station. So my approach to that would always be, once it's an ongoing thing, like I've been to Chicago a few times. So now when I come on your show, I'm going to either talk about things that I've made notes about that are not going to be in my act, but that I think are funny to talk about in a conversation, or I'm going to talk about, if I'm going to do material, it's going to be material that's pretty new. So I know that I didn't do it the last time for that reason.
But because of the way
I'm a little bit lazier than Brian Regan, and I don't want to keep that diary and have to look it up. And then
I wouldn't know where I put it. I mean, I'd write it down with all the good intentions, but it'd be in a box or a pile somewhere, and there's no chance I could find it. But because of the conversations you and I have always had, which have almost nothing to do with, the jokes you're doing on stage, where you would go, because honestly, you know this better than anybody. You go into a local radio station, they're going, hey, give me a couple things to work with here. So what do you think of all this traveling you're doing, or this or that? We never talked like that. So does that make doing an interview with somebody like me harder or easier?
No, it's easier to be a person than it is to be a robot, in my opinion.
It's deeply philosophical. That's the third really deep thing you've said so far.
Well, I'm thinking about getting into life coaching. That's what I'd really prefer. It takes a lot of pressure off the comedy show when you don't have to get laughs. You just have to give people advice. Sure. And I like the idea that someone could start crying and it would be a good show.
Right, of course. Right? Because generally speaking, unless it's a bachelorette party where there's always problems anyway, you don't want crying in your audience.
Yeah, give it up for Barbara. She just had a breakthrough.
And Barbara, we have a surprise for you. Your mom's here. Let's bring her out right now.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go backwards for a second. Back to Letterman. 46 hits on Letterman. The show is as hot as anything in late night TV forever and ever and ever. And for good reason. Dave was the best. And you and I grew up on Carson and Dave. So aside from how cool that must have been, you must have met some interesting people. So who's somebody you met that was cool, and who's somebody you met that you'd rather punch in the face?
Well, let's go with the cool one. I was once on with Sir Anthony Hopkins, and at that time, the guy who was the talent coordinator was another comedian named Eddie Brill.
I knew Eddie, sure.
And so I'm pretty sure that this is right. It may have been someone else, but in my mind, we don't remember. I'm pretty sure it was Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Sure.
But
for the sake of this story, it's definitely Anthony Hopkins.
So Eddie says, do you want to meet him? Because the way, the other guests is in their dressing room, they go on, you go on.
Yeah.
This was at CBS. At the old NBC show, they had that green room, so everyone would be in the green room. So right. I'm in there hanging out. I was talking to Cindy Crawford one time for 20 minutes, and I didn't know who it was. She's wearing a baseball hat. And I said to Frank, the talent guy, I go, boy,
she's the hot girl.
She's beautiful. And he goes, yeah, Cindy Crawford. So one time I'm on, and they asked, do you want to meet Sir Anthony Hopkins? And I said, yes. And he came over. He was so nice to me. Oh, Jake, it's nice to meet you too. I said, I'm a fan of your work. He says, oh, thank you very much. We had some other little interchange where it was obvious to me that he was aware that this was kind of a big deal for me. And he took the time to give me a brief experience that made me feel good and made me love him more. And
that's a very cool story.
That was really nice. And
it's unfair as your friend to ask you to out a jerk, but let me do one for you. Because I've talked to everybody through the years that I pretty much have wanted to, and there really haven't been that many bad experiences, but there's a couple that stood out, one of which was a guy named Robert Goulet. If you're younger, you won't know who Robert Goulet is necessarily, but he was a very big star in the 60s and 70s, and mostly known as a Broadway guy for a show. Was it Camelot? Was that the show?
Yes, I think so. Here's a fun fact about Robert Goulet. Robert Goulet is the guy who, whenever Elvis Presley would see him on TV, he would shoot the TV.
Well, see, there you go. That's perfectly appropriate. Yeah. Well, see what? I didn't have a gun. But Robert Goulet came in, and this only happened a few times. But if somebody came in and they wouldn't play along, there's a certain business proposition you enter into when you come on a show. And that is you've got something to plug. I'm going to help you facilitate that plug, but we have an audience to entertain together. That's it. It's not hard to understand. So for the few minutes you're going to be on with me, you don't have to like me, but we're going to have fun, or we're going to entertain, or we're going to inform, whatever the case may be. So Robert Goulet came in, and unbeknownst to me at that point, he was a raging alcoholic. It was news that came out not long after that. And I have sympathy for alcoholics because I have a family full of them, like an Olympic team full of them. But having said that, he was also an asshole. And when he came in, he had no interest in being a guest. He didn't want to be there. And we got into the first break, and I said to his manager who was with him, I go, look, you guys don't want to be here. You don't have to be here, but we're either going to do this together and you're going to play along, or we're going to have some fun, or you're going to leave. And he didn't even look up. The manager said, we're fine. We're fine. We want to talk about the show. We come back from the break, and he opens when we come back from the break. Steve Cochran, this talk show host, this disc jockey, just threatened me and then went after me on the air. So now it's game on. So we went back and forth and back and forth. I'll give him credit for this. He was an angry drunk, and he never got off character. He really wanted to have a fist fight with me. If I didn't have 2 hours of show left, I probably would have agreed with him and punched him, but he really was a dick. Now that's just one story. And again, there's not many, because most people are pretty great about that.
Well, we're seldom at our best when we're drunk.
I'm going to go with a yes on that. And that's your fourth really deep statement.
So I'm just trying to I'm trying to posthumously cut Robert Goulet just a little bit of slack.
Well, but see, you said posthumously there. I'm going to separate from you here, because here's the thing. People go, don't speak ill of the dead. Oh, I don't agree. If the dead were assholes and you have a story, I think you need to tell it.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying I wanted to cut him some slack, but not because he's dead.
Okay.
The fact that he's dead is incidental.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So did you have a Letterman occasion where somebody was, a little too big for the room?
I'm trying to think. I was, like I was describing, Dave's pretty busy. Well, I'm also pretty busy when I'm there, and sure. I've got way less responsibility than Dave has. But I did it 46 times, and every time I took it seriously. So I'm thinking about my set. I'm going over my notes. I'm in my little room. So the only people who are saying hello are people who want to say hello, or who we're just passing each other so quickly that there's not even enough time for them to be an asshole. Although, there are some people who've really got it down. I can't really think of any experience like that on the Letterman thing. I was very lucky. Yeah,
but it also says something about you, because you're a good guy and you're easy to hang with and stuff. What was your walk-on music with Paul? Did he pick something for you?
It would change. They'd ask you every time. So I had different songs. I had different songs, different times.
So look, the thing is, the era you and I grew up in, and you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, I assume you were a Carson guy like I was when you were a kid.
Well, yeah, that's who was on. So yeah, it was a Tonight Show. I'd watch the Tonight Show. Did
you watch for the comedians, or did that come later?
No, I didn't understand. I knew who Robin Williams was and Steve Martin, of course, but I dropped out. Steve, I am celebrating this year, 2022. This will be my 40th anniversary of the first time I walked on stage to do stand-up comedy. I can't remember the exact date, but it's roughly this spring, this March, April.
Happy anniversary.
Since I started doing stand-up. So it's worked out. It's safe to say it's worked out for me.
Yeah.
I was in college a year and a half, maybe away from getting a degree. And I dropped out of college, moved to San Francisco to do stand-up comedy, because that's where Robin Williams did stand-up comedy. And I didn't really understand. I just thought stand-up comedy is that Robert Williams does it, but I didn't know any other. I didn't really understand what
didn't know how to do it. Didn't know.
I didn't know what I was doing. I had been going on stage doing stand-up and watching other comedians and then before I realized several months in that, you don't have to get your own sitcom. There's comedians, and this is probably an epiphany to some of the people listening right now. There's comedians that you've never heard of, maybe me, that have made a nice living, and you've never heard of them. But they've got cars, send their kids to college, they buy a house, they've got a wife, those cost money, and they do all of that, supporting themselves, doing stand-up comedy in comedy clubs. I didn't realize that was even a thing that could happen. And that was 6 months into doing stand-up comedy. I dropped out of college to do a thing that I really didn't understand.
All right, but let me back up for a second. Why? Who told you, or did you just decide yourself, I'm funny, I'm going to go try to do this? Or did you have somebody that said, you're funny, you should go try and do this?
Well, when you're the age that we are, then you were around when Saturday Night Live first came on TV. And so the idea that you could be on Saturday Night Live was a thing, that you could have a career where you did silly things on television that were sort of like, when Saturday Night Live first came on, you couldn't believe what they were doing. It was just, and Steve Martin and Robin Williams, you kind of couldn't understand that was a thing. They so reinvented the medium that it was a real eye opener. It was like, oh, I want to see if I can be one of those guys.
But who said go to San Francisco? Was that just what you wanted to do because you knew Robin Williams started there?
I think I told you that's my friend had to cut out.
This isn't 60 Minutes, so back it down a little bit, Robert.
My friend had cut out an article in Newsweek magazine because it was before the internet. You had to cut things out and then carry them around with you to win arguments. So he had this. He was like, look, this is the Newsweek magazine. This is where Robin Williams started, the Holy City Zoo. So we're going to San Francisco. He flaked out before I got there, but that's why I went to San Francisco, was because that's where Robin Williams started. And he looked like he had a good life. And I figured if Robin Williams started that way, then that's probably similar to what Steve Martin did or how you get on Saturday Night Live. And so I'm going to do that.
So what was your big break? What was your big break that took you from the guy getting into the business to maybe middles or features or does a showcase somewhere to be a nationally touring headliner and a guy that does specials in 46 Lettermans?
I started in 1982. And then in 1986, I won what at the time was the prestigious San Francisco comedy competition.
Right.
And so that meant that I had attention. And also at that, I won the comedy competition in whatever it was, September, October. And then I auditioned for and I got the HBO Young Comedians 10th anniversary special. And so the people who produced that special were Robin Williams, David Letterman, Woody Allen, Dana Carvey. They were those people's manager as well. And so I got the show. I got them as management. I on separate from the comedy competition, I had people interested in becoming my agent and having me move to LA. Bud Friedman from the Improv at the time, it was still his business. He was running it. You know, I could move to LA. I could do sets at the Improv in Hollywood. There were only 3 or 4 improvs out of town, but I could work those and headline them. Because I won the comedy competition, I could go back to the Bay Area and headline all of those comedy clubs. Plus they had a room in Seattle. And
so your income goes up exponentially overnight once you win that.
Yeah. So the combination in that fall of 1986, winning the comedy competition and getting on that HBO Young Comedian special that opened all the doors. That was my big break. I moved to LA and that was it. So
was there any specific, mentor who had, gotten it done in the business, was maybe a little bit ahead of you that helped you figure out some things, or you figured it out along the way? Point being, once you win that competition, a lot of stuff's happening right away. It's easy to make mistakes unless you have somebody that's been there before you.
Well, I guess I counted on my manager to help with that, Buddy Mora, now rest in peace.
Yeah.
And then, the guys who were ahead of me out of San Francisco, Dana Carvey and Kevin Pollak, Bobby Slayton, Paula Poundstone. I could see by their example, and I knew them a little bit. And I'd been watching headliners come through. So I knew when I had to headline the show, I knew sort of I need this much material. The set needs to build and have an ending. It was a lot different then than now, because you couldn't go online and watch everybody's stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Right. You could say YouTube and do it for hours.
You could watch somebody's HBO special, but you had to watch it on HBO when it was on.
Right. There was no streaming. Streaming was what you did during the commercial breaks on regular TV because you had to go really bad.
So that made it harder to see what other people were doing.
I salute you for passing over my peeing joke.
What?
I salute you for passing over my peeing joke about streaming. It was a classy move on your part.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so busy thinking about what I'm saying that I don't have time to think about what you're saying all the time. It's common amongst white men in our age group.
Yeah, it actually is. So when you look at guys today, who makes you laugh today? Who are the guys out there today that make you laugh? Because I think you're in a position, you have done it so well for so long. You're one of the best to ever do this. And that's not just your friend Steve saying it. I know it to be true. And you've also been smart in that, whether it's natural or intended, your act has evolved over the years where you're still completely relevant, where a lot of guys weren't able to do that. I know you had your whole Norm Crosby phrase where you tried to say words the wrong way, but that was just a bump in the road for you. You didn't do it for long. So who are the guys today that make you laugh?
Well, I mean, so Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr, two obvious choices because people always ask you what comedians you like, and you have to pick amongst the ones that they've heard of. And so I'm imagining that most people have heard of Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr.
Well, give me somebody people might not know. I mean,
Well, this is another guy who is after me, but now he's in his 50s. But Dana Gould has always been in them.
Hilarious.
I'm trying to think of. It's been a bit since I've really been on the road, but my list of. And then there's comedians. There's a guy in Denver named Troy Baxley who has struggled with his own personal issues, but he was always so talented, and I feel like I've been lucky to bear witness to that guy's career and talent.
Wow.
And even though it never got appreciated at the level that he probably deserved.
But it's funny. It's funny about that because you and I both know Mike Toomey here in Chicago. Mike's one of the best guys on stage, period. And he's a big deal here in Chicago. And he's had some national exposure and things. But he's another guy. If the dominoes fall maybe in a slightly different direction, then he's got that big career. It's all about choices you make along the way, right? And opportunities you get or don't get. It doesn't make you less funny. It's just it happens for some. It doesn't happen for others. And by the way, Mike's got a very nice career going, but he certainly has the talent and the laughs that would have taken him to that level if things had fallen a different way or if he'd chosen a different path.
Well, yeah, I've had a nice career. I was developing a TV show at Castle Rock for NBC the same time Jerry was developing Seinfeld.
Right.
And, if the cards fall another way, then I'm the guy who has that hit show. Or we both have a hit show, like Ray Romano had his show produced by Letterman. I had a deal with Worldwide Pants to produce a show for me that just didn't work out. Then there were things like, do you want to host something like Talk Soup or The Daily Show? And at the time, I mean, not specifically The Daily Show, but shows like that I passed on, that if I had taken them, maybe I might not be successful or well-known for that show, but I might have gotten more successful and well-known to be able to sell more tickets at my stand-up career. But I've really enjoyed both my career and my life, because I think that's a lot of what people forget when they think about, it's too bad you didn't get to be Drew Carey famous, or Ray Romano famous, or Jerry Seinfeld famous. But the thing that I've gotten to make a nice living and make a lot of nice friends, and I'm respected by my peers and my fans. And I've had a lot of time free to do things that those guys haven't been able to do.
Yep.
Whether it's spending time with my wife and daughter, or being able to go surf several times a week for years, or now learn jujitsu at my advanced age. I've got time to do those things now. I think if most people, if you ask them, people in their 20s, hey, would you rather have your own TV show or learn jujitsu and go surfing? Most people are going to say, I want my own TV show. But, I feel like I've got a little window into that. And I'm happy with my choice. I think if I was 25, I would still answer the same as everybody else answers. But I'm very happy about how my life has worked out.
No, I agree with you 100%. I have too made a nice living, and there's other people who were on the radio in the same era that I was in, or guys that came up just before me and made a lot more money because they were in that sweet spot. And I've done fine. I made a nice living for a long time, and I'm okay. I'm not on any GoFundMe pages, and I don't plan to be. But I think you're as famous as you want to be based on your choices. And like you, I'm thrilled that I could have my grandkids run in and interrupt our call and be here with a family that loves me and all that. There's a price to pay for being famous. And I think that's some more perspective you get when you get to our age.
Well, yeah. I mean, the point is there's a price to be paid for the choices that I made. But yeah, there's a price to be paid for being famous. And, I would have paid that price. That was what I thought was going to happen and what I thought I was making choices based on. In retrospect, I think I did turn some things down that now in the big picture, obviously put me on a different path. But I'm, look, you do the best you can. You try and take as many things into consideration. And it's been pretty great.
You're doing
so far so good. I'm still able to come to Zanies in Chicago. I think that there's some comedians who are in my age group who are like, why do you still want to go do that? And I wanted to go do the fun ones, but I don't know. It's a fun job. I used to tell people in that period between you get those sitcom opportunities and then are you going to get another one or not, and what's going to happen, when they'd ask what you're doing, and I tell them I love doing stand-up. I'm doing that. Hopefully something else will happen, but I love doing stand-up. And it always, I think, sounded to the people I was talking to as if it was some kind of rationalization and that I was lying. And then when Jerry Seinfeld quit his smash hit $500 million TV show and went back to doing stand-up, that was a validation of like, okay, either I'm lying or he's lying. But he wants to do what I've been doing all these years.
Yeah. And if you are good enough at it to do it at your level, why would you give it up? And the cool thing now is when you and I were growing up and coming up, once you got again to our age, you were doing a Vegas thing and you were more of, boy, that guy was great, than somebody who could still be relevant and still get it done. And you also look much younger than me, and you know how much that pisses me off.
Well, I don't know I think, well, do we? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, nice cover. You made a half effort there, and I appreciate it, because clearly I was fishing for some sort of validation myself.
I think you get us in some fishing outfits and some cowboy hats, and people are going to think we went to high school together.
Did you watch a lot of TV when you were a kid?
Yeah, I guess so.
Did you have a show that you were nuts about? Did you watch the sitcoms, or did you watch some genre of something?
Yeah, we liked to, when I was at home, we'd watch The Odd Couple. We would watch Barney Miller, The Newhart Show, Mary Tyler Moore. We love those kind of sitcoms. We weren't drama people. We weren't sitting down for an hour long.
No, and in the 3-channel universe with limited options, that CBS Saturday night thing in the 70s is still amazing. And I guess it tells you about how much life has changed, because people would stay home on a Saturday night of all ages, not just old folks, and they'd watch all of those shows because you had Newhart, you had Mary Tyler Moore, you had Carol Burnett, and I'm missing one. But it was like this power lineup on a Saturday night on TV.
Well, and then even once I was in high school and we would go out somewhere, we would go to someone's house and then watch Saturday Night Live.
Exactly.
That was a big part of it. But yeah, you had to watch the TV when the thing was on that you wanted to watch, unlike now. And then there wasn't streaming or phones, so you had to go meet people outside. And then sometimes I mean, it's funny because my daughter just came back from a walk with her friend the other night and said, "Dad, can you believe that they sell maraschino cherries at the gas station?" And I said, "Well, it's been a while since I've done any food shopping at the gas station."
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, I guess I can believe that.
So, all right, I'm going to ask you a series of questions before we run out of time, because both of us, to admit it again, have to pee soon.
Do you want me to just give the answers ahead? I can give you a series of answers, and then you can do the questions, or it's better the other way around. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I call this, you must pick one. You must pick one. In other words, each question is a choice. You must pick one. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Do you have a pet now, by the way?
We have a rabbit. I had cats for 20 something years, and then I got allergic to them, which is then also I'm allergic to dogs. And I'm a big defender of the cat as a pet because they're independent. It's more like having a roommate. That's sort of
an obstinate roommate
it's
who
like
only
a passive aggressive relationship.
Yeah.
If you're into that, a cat is great for you. But they can damage things, cats. And
that's a cat, by the way, you just heard trying to break into your studio.
I think that's my daughter doing laundry, which is something that cats and dogs are not able to do.
No.
Yeah. So dogs, I've now got I'm at a point in my life where I really appreciate dogs. I've got a friend who's got a dog that I consider his dog my friend.
So it's sort of a surrogate. You're a surrogate to the dog in some form.
He
would be the parent.
He's like the dog. It's like the dog is in assisted living and he's just the person that helps the dog to do its life.
What's a funnier animal, a monkey or a donkey?
Monkey.
I don't disagree, but donkeys are funny.
Well, the word donkey and monkey can work to your comedic benefit. They're probably equal that way.
If donkeys could throw their own poo, would they be as funny as a monkey?
I think I need to see a donkey climb a tree before I'm ready to put them.
That's fair. That's completely fair. Cook dinner or takeout? You must pick one.
Cook dinner. What?
Or takeout, takeaway, takeout. Cook dinner or takeout preference? You must pick one.
Well, I do enjoy some cooking, but if I had to pick one and that's it, I'd say takeout.
Yeah, because it's easier. What do you cook? Do you have a special?
Well, and you get more variety. I mean, there's just some things that I can't imagine that I could make.
This would be philosophical point number 5 for you without boiling it down into a sentence. But you're saying when I cook, I'm limited to what's in my house. When I take out, I have the entire world.
Well, not just my house, my talent, my skill set.
Mm-hmm. What do you cook? What do you make?
I can make pasta. I can make red beans and rice. I can make shrimp etouffee. I can cook Thanksgiving. I can do any kind of meaty barbecue thing, but I can't make ribs. I can't make fish and chips. These are just pedestrian things, but I can't make any kind of Thai food or Japanese ramen. That's beyond me.
Regular TV or stream?
Come on.
No, I'm asking.
How dare you? Streaming. Well, I'm never going back to regular TV.
When was the last time you had cable? Has it been years?
A few years ago. I'm going to Nashville to tape a show that's going to be, you'll be able to watch it on the Peacock network or the Peacock app, but it's a channel inside of the Peacock app that you can watch on. And then when I looked at the Peacock app, you can watch for free, or you can pay which I'm assuming means you have to watch ads, or you can pay a subscription where you have to watch ads, or you can pay a subscription where you don't have to watch ads. And I'm already paying for enough subscriptions that the Peacock can go
fly.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with cock and pee, and I just can't come up with anything that I feel like is acceptable. So
you got rid of cable. What sort of situation do you have now where you're paying for like all these apps and different things?
Sorry.
No, the streaming apps and all those things. Because the argument is I cut the cord on the cable. I pay for all the streaming apps. I'm paying just as much as I paid before, and it's twice the work.
Well, first of all, I think the streaming is more expensive than it should be at $62 just for internet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we've got that. That's $61. And then for a while, we were just Amazon Prime and then Netflix, which Amazon Prime sort of feels like, hey, I'm paying for the free shipping, but then I'm getting free TV.
Yep.
So for a while, there was just those two. And then the pandemic happened. And then it was like my daughter wanted to watch something on Hulu. So I finally broke down for Hulu. And of course, I'm paying the no commercials on Hulu. I'm not going to pay you money and watch commercials. Mm-hmm. So I'm paying for the Hulu no commercials. And then I got that bundled with ESPN Plus so I could watch fighting and Disney Plus, which I thought I needed because it was only a little bit more, but then I never watched anything on Disney Plus. But then also we're paying for HBO Max and Apple TV Plus because they give that to you with your phone. And then once you watch Ted Lasso, you're like, okay, you can
keep watching Ted Lasso. Yeah.
So now what?
So you're up to about 100,000 a month in streaming.
That's
services.
7 of those. So those are probably $15 each. I don't even want to think about it. Yeah, it's more than I was spending on cable. But you also got inflation, and you also got like I'm not going out to any movies. You know, the price of one of those services is equal to the price of just one ticket to a movie every month. So,
by the way, you slid in that Nashville thing, and you're just not good at plugging your own work. Where in Nashville, and when is it going to be on Peacock?
Well, I'll be in Nashville. I'm going to run my set on the 22nd tomorrow, and then the taping is the 23rd. And then on the 24th through the 26th of February, that's this month.
It's this weekend.
This week, I'm going to be in Huntsville, Alabama, and at the Improv. And then I'm going to be in San Francisco, March 13th through, 17th.
Jake is leaning forward, trying to see his calendar in his studio.
17th and 19th, I'm in San Francisco at the Punchline. And then I'm in Chicago, March 31st, April 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, and that's at Zany's downtown and also in Rosemont, Zany's.com for tickets. And you should get them, especially if you haven't seen Jake in a while, because I have to say the breast implants have worked out well for you. And I thought a B cup was a good choice.
Yeah, at first I thought it was just a joke, but I love my boobs.
Blazing Saddles or Young Frankenstein?
Oh, Young Frankenstein for me.
Really?
There's too much N-word in Blazing Saddles for me, and too much weird racism is funny. You know,
I don't laugh at the racism. I laugh at the movie, and it's just a very funny movie. And
it is funny, but Young Frankenstein is so much more of to me, it's a satire of a genre and a specific movie, whereas Blazing Saddles is sort of a satire of the genre. Anyway, I don't know why, but hey, look.
All right. Listen, you can be wrong about that. Do it yourself or hire.
Why did you ask me?
Listen, I asked to find out if you were wrong. Do it yourself or hire. In other words, are you handy?
I'm sort of handy, but I know my limits, and I also know the
what
value.
What can you do around the house to fix something, or with your car? What are you handy about?
I was just in the process of replacing the toilet seat this morning. That's pretty simple, but I can handle almost everything about a toilet. I can fix all the things. I can do some minor drain clearing and plumbing, although from my experience with plumbing now, I now realize that even professional plumbers, that there's a period where you put it all back together, you turn the water on, you find out where it's leaking, then you turn the water off, tighten everything up, then you turn it on again. And I'd rather leave the plumbing to the professionals. I could change an electric outlet or a switch. So I can do that.
That's pretty impressive. That's actually real man stuff. You're leaning into the real man territory there.
I've replaced the drive belt on my dryer, or was it my washing machine? One of those.
And are you doing the YouTube videos to learn this, or you learned it as a kid, or what?
I used a YouTube video to do a major filter declog,
Wow.
wastewater dishwasher repair. But yeah, I'm not afraid to take a shot at it. And also I believe in myself enough to know that once I watch the video, I can make a pretty good call as to whether I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. I can change a furnace filter, but the guy had to come out because this capacitor was out. So he had to do that. I helped my neighbor. He had a shelf that needed to be cut down and moved back, and I was able to do that. And to him, it was like I was a, shaman or something. So I did all that with a level and a straight edge and a skill set.
Very impressive. And also the shaman thing I thought would be clear because you're wearing the fur helmet with the horns. So, I mean, I don't even know.
Well, ever since that January 6th thing, that was my fashion takeaway, was that helmet, that hat with the horns. I mean, look, I'm not for overthrowing the government, but I do think that buffalo hat with the horns is a high-end, a very advanced fashion choice.
Yeah. No, listen, how could I argue with you? Go to bed angry or talk it out?
Well, I've done both. I'm going to say talk it out.
Oh, boy, that's a tough one.
It depends on who it is. If it's my wife, it's talk it out. If it's
well, if it were me, you just say go to bed angry.
Well, maybe you're drunk and I got to just wait till tomorrow.
Football or any other sport? Not play it, watch it.
Any other sport.
And what do you like?
In the pandemic, I got invited to the LA Football Club, the soccer team, the other soccer team here in Los Angeles. And I really enjoyed the game, both the game and the fans. It has a real multi-ethnic, you're in Los Angeles. It's not the thing that you're used to going to. So I love the LA Football Club matches live. I like watching, now I like watching UFC because I know some jiu-jitsu, so it's fun to watch the fights when that happens. I like basketball. I enjoy rugby. My wife is from New Zealand, so I enjoy watching a rugby match. So I would pick.
It's a very eclectic mix, but I agree with you on soccer. I've become a Premier League fan in the last 20 years, which is the European soccer gold standard, and a fan of a club called the Tottenham Hotspurs, which, unless you live in London, might be the weirdest name for any professional sports team anywhere.
Well, yeah. Well, Tottenham is kind of funny. Their towns are funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their pub names, you just pick an animal and an inanimate object, and that's your pub name. Or sometimes it's two animals.
That's why if you're in London and you say, where would you like to go to dinner? Well, Cock and Balls has an opening at 6. What?
Yeah.
What?
I'd like to go to the Owl. Have you been to the Owl and the Anvil?
I've heard of it, yes, and I know. Shower or bath?
Shower. I think baths are almost over. I love a soak in a jacuzzi. I love a sauna. I like a cold plunge in the ocean or in an ice tank. But to sit in a hot bath while it gets tepid, and then to have to stand up and rinse the soapy water off in the shower anyway, no, thank you. Showers are almost over. Go to a hotel now. The hotel, the swanky hotel I was just in for this corporate event, shower only.
Well, that's the way it should be. I mean, it's the old thing. Who wants to sit in their own swill? I don't get that. I don't understand it. I had to take a bath Sunday nights when I was a kid because, Sunday nights was bath night, maybe one other time during the week, because apparently we lived in a little house on the prairie. And on Sunday nights, you tried to hurry the bath because The Wonderful World of Disney was on, where there was Lawrence Welk or Ed Sullivan or something else. And you wanted to at least stay up as long as you could. But as soon as I got out of, you got to take a bath stage, and I was 42 or 3 at that point, then it's all showers. Showers are for men, Jake.
Once you get into your 40s, that means your mom is probably in her 60s or older, and it's hard for her to get down and deal with you in the tub.
That did help. You're not wrong about that. Yeah, that's philosophical statement number 6. All right. Well, listen, as always, you're more fun than a barrel of monkeys or a donkey. And let's get to plug-in for Zanies, because I'm going to ask you to come back when we get a little closer to those Zanies dates so we can do this again, if you don't mind.
Well, and I'm going to ask that if people come out to the show, I don't know that Zanies is going to be putting on a birthday, anniversary and comedy spread. But as this is my 40th year in stand-up comedy, I'd invite anybody to. You don't have to bring me a cupcake, but if you'd like to eat a cupcake during the show,
oh, what a nice idea!
Just to celebrate that would be great. Or maybe we'll just do a shot of Jameson's after. I don't know.
Do you have a cupcake treat that you prefer if somebody wants to be that person? Because I don't know about you. I always love listener and fan food. You just want to dive right in.
I have to say that I can't. I'm sort of I can't eat food that somebody just brought to the show. I have some fans that I've known over the years who I trust for that, but yeah, I can't do that just because there's too many. A couple bad apples.
I'm glad you mentioned apples, because the last time I accepted food was an apple from Robert Goulet with a razor blade in it. And that's how you learn.
Was it Halloween that you interviewed him on? Because maybe he was being bad Robert Goulet. He was being his own evil twin.
I should have known. I really should have. It's my friend Jake Johannsen. My best to your wife, your family, your daughter, all of the above. And thank you for doing this, my friend. End of March, first day of April. Is that right at Zanies?
Yeah, April 1st and 2nd and March 31st.
So zanies.com, get your tickets soon. Which show would you like me to be at?
Could you come to all of them?
Yeah, I will be at all of them.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, and have your car warm when you leave, that whole thing.
You know what I like.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
If you're purchasing a new home, refinancing your existing home, securing a VA loan or reverse mortgage, you need to do what I've done in the past. Whenever I need help with a house, I call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. This time, let's meet Pete, who recently posted this 5-star Google review after saving over $800 a month as he completed a cash-out refinance with the help of Team Hochberg loan officer Mark Zenner. Here it is, quote, "What a great lender." Heard David Hochberg giving great advice on several radio stations and podcasts. Sounded too good to be true. His team is amazing. A big shout out to Mark Zenner. Very, very responsive and makes it happen. Thank you, Team Hochberg. I'm telling everyone about my great experience, end quote. Over 200 5-star reviews can be read by simply going to Team Hochberg Reviews on your browser. Go to 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com and see those reviews right now. And if you want to experience the same outstanding customer service as Pete did, as well as me, my family, my friends, my listeners, before you got in that line as well, you simply need to do what we've all done. 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. And tune in to Home Sweet Home Chicago, hosted by David Hochberg, Saturdays after House Smarts at 10. Homeside Financial, an equal housing lender, NMLS number 1124061. Thank you to my friend Jake Johannsen, and he's appearing all over the country again as we get in-person entertainment back up and running. Go to jakethis.com for everything related to Jake. jakethis.com. And he does a Facebook show every afternoon, or at least most afternoons. You could check that out as well. Just search Facebook and Jake, or just follow the link at jakethis.com. A charity which is important in Jake's life, and I think important to all of us, I certainly would encourage you to support as we get to that part of the podcast, is the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. And they're at multiplemyeloma.org. That's multiple, MYELOMA.org. Started back in 1998, the MMRF pursues innovation to accelerate the development of next-generation multiple myeloma therapies. The Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. Your donations are tax-deductible, and they get a very high rating at Charity Navigator, a site that I depend on, and you should too, for making sure that you're giving money to folks who are going to spend it appropriately. So, Jake, good luck with that. Best of luck to your wife. She's a hero. And we will reconnect with Jake Johannsen probably in about a month or so as he comes to Chicago. But again, don't miss him if he's coming to your town, no matter where you're listening. Check it out at jakethis.com. Thank you, Ross Cochran. 200 episodes strong. Doesn't happen without Ross. And at least I'm smart enough at this point to listen to him. All right, I'll take you out with one more clip of Jake. How about that? Again, 46 appearances on Late Night with David Letterman. Here's another clip of Jake. See you next time on Live from My Office.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's Jake Johannsen. Jake?
Hi. Normally, I'm not, really into nasal sprays. Right, but I've got a cold, and I thought, I'm going on TV, and I don't want any kind of draining, and a nose diaper. They don't even have that. So I tried the nasal spray. I don't know if you've ever tried the nasal spray before, but I really want to wrestle somebody right now. Other than that, I feel pretty good. Always fun to come to New York. I'm planning a trip right now to go back to Hong Kong. I was in Hong Kong last year to work, and I was excited at first. I like Chinese food, and I know where I'm going. And so I thought that the Chinese food would be better in China than it is here, right? I mean, because that's where they make the Chinese people. Yeah, and they're made out of Chinese food when you think about it. So I went anyway. The Chinese food in China is not better than the Chinese food here. Yeah.
30 years plus on the airwaves, you have turned your dial to me. Now you're tuned into my podcast. It's live from my office, Steve. From Ithaca, New York to Carolina South, W. Cochran Steve. From Minneapolis and then Chicago twice, top-rated shows achieved. Sit back, relax, and now listen to my show. When or wherever you are, 'cause you're on the go. A-list celebs with some laughs and great info. Live from my office, the Steve Cochran Podcast Show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No better place to be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Subscribe and like for free. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Live from my office, Steve. So glad you're with me. It's live from my office, Steve.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.